The true Jews, according to the Bible, you can check it in the Bible, you can read Job 30:30 and some other places. They have never been white. They have been people of color. And they have not stopped in Ethiopia. They were in Ethiopia, Sudan, and they have settled in West Africa. From West Africa, they have been taken as slaves to America. Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can just to hide this away from you. Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here and to tell you these are the Jews, gonna kill you, gonna kill Arabs, gonna mistreat white people like this guy just to tell you this lie. That you are nobody and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted, your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why America has been taking your history away, never to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't ask you to come to Israel and to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit. Because I'm living in Israel and I'm part of this injustice. I really believe that people like me and you, we can bring the justice back. Thank you.
Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper, and to this very important and very special video that I'm doing covering who the true biblical Hebrews are. I first off want to say, as if the warning at the beginning of the video wasn't enough, I want to make sure and reiterate this, that I'm not a racist person. Nor am I a person that hates certain individuals. I love all of humanity. I want to see all of humanity making a new kingdom. But nevertheless, there is true Hebrews. There is a true people of the Most High that is scattered throughout the nations of the earth this day. It is not whom that many people believe they are, such as the so-called Jews in the nation-state of Israel that we so see before us right now. I would interject that the true biblical Hebrews are the so-called African American people that are scattered abroad throughout the world. Now, I will show you through a mass amount of evidence that I'll put up on the screen right here, verses below, and you can do your due diligence and research these things out to see if they be so. It is very important that you understand who the true Hebrews are, because that end-time prophecy, lots of it, surround these individuals. I am a Gentile. I know exactly who I am, but it seems to be the one group of people in the world that have been, by the rest of the world, tried to be dumbed down to the fact or completely erase their history from history, is the African American people, so-called, that are scattered throughout the nations. Now, please understand that not every single black person is a true Hebrew, but it is those that are under the curse of Deuteronomy 28. And you'll be able to tell by the time that I'm done giving you this information in this video who the true Hebrews are, and you may be one of them.
Because no matter how much fact, no matter how much scripture you all are presented with regarding who the Hebrews in the Bible were and who they are in the earth today, which would be the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, the Native Americans, the Aborigines, no matter what you're presented with, you still want to dispute this and maintain your superior, pompous, arrogant attitudes. And it makes me sick. I come across these so-called biblically based websites, and listed for the 12 tribes of Israel are all European countries. What is wrong with you people? You should be ashamed of yourselves. After everything these people have been through at the hand of the white man, slaughtered, ran off their land, sold into bondage, had their heritage stolen from them, would it kill you? Would it kill you to acknowledge the fact that these could be God's chosen elect? Well, evidently so. And unfortunately, in the words of King Solomon, there's nothing new under the sun. As a matter of fact, I'd like to read what King David had to say regarding this. And this is from Psalm 83. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They have a confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, that's you white people, Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Hagareans, Gebal and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, and with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Selah. So, yeah. You know, despite the fact that there's an African tribe with a piece of the Ark of the Covenant, and despite the fact that it's been proven that Native American tribes wrote in ancient Hebrew, a very, very ancient form of Hebrew, you still want to think that you're Israelites. And I hate to break it to you white people, but you are not. You are Edom. You are Edomites, the descendants of Esau, Jacob's brother. And I guess this is where that term comes from, the white man is the devil. Well, in this case, the truth, it hurts oh so bad.
Now, in Revelation chapter 1, verses 13 through 15, is a description of Christ. And it brings out that he had hair white like wool. Now, I want to show you a picture. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what wool looks like, but I just wanted you to get a good visual. Okay? Now, there's wool. Now, I'm going to show you another picture, and we all know who this is. But when you look at his hair, it is exactly like the sheep's wool. Now, I know it says that it was white, so I want to show you a picture of an older Hebrew Israelite. And when you look at his hair, that's exactly what it is, white like wool. Now, if you look at the gentleman next to him, who is a so-called white person, he does not have woolly hair. And white people in general don't. I mean, you look at my hair, it's not woolly, it's thin and fine and straight, which is pretty much the norm for the so-called white people. Now, also in Daniel 7, chapter 7, verse 9, it talks about the Ancient of Days, which is God himself. And there's a description of him there, and it says he had hair white like wool. So when you read these scriptures, it really shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that God, Christ, and the ancient Hebrews were all black people with hair white like, or with hair like wool. Excuse me. Now, another thing I want to touch on is in Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now, the first 14 verses are talking about God is telling the Israelites, okay, if you keep my commands, this is what I'll do for you. The remaining verses he's telling them, if you don't keep my commands, then this is what will happen. I want to read chapter 28 and verse 68. It says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." Now, if you were to get a globe and you were to look at where the Hebrew Israelites were at, they would not need a ship to get to Egypt. So God was obviously talking about something else. He wasn't talking about the physical land of Egypt. If you look in Exodus 13:3 and Deuteronomy 20 and verse 2, it refers to Egypt as a house of bondage. Now, I want to show you something, and I know everybody has seen this. I saw it a million times, but never paid any attention and never really thought twice about it. But on the back of the dollar bill, there's a pyramid. Now, pyramids are notorious with Egypt. I mean, you say pyramid, that's automatically what you think of is Egypt. So why would the United States of America put a pyramid on the back of their dollar bill? Now, with the word Egypt meaning house of bondage, God was obviously telling the Israelites, hey, I'm going to put you back into slavery. Now, the only race of people that were brought over on ships and sold as bondmen and bondwomen, which are slaves, are the so-called African Americans. That's the term that the white man has given them. Now, like I said before, if after you do this research, which I don't expect you to take anything that I'm telling you, look it up for yourself, do the research. That's what I did. Anytime I was shown a scripture, shown something in a book, I'd look it up myself and do the same thing. And if at the end of that you still can't see it, then I really don't know what else to say. But I want the Black Hebrew Israelites, I'm trying to help to get them woke up and to see the rich heritage that they really have, and what a blessing to be one of God's chosen people. I mean, honestly, I'd give my left foot to be one of God's chosen people. So I'm just trying to help and get this out there, and I'm hoping that if one person listens to what I have to say and they see the truth, then great. I'm ecstatic. So I'm hoping that this helps, and I hope everybody enjoyed my video. Thank you.
So yes, I am an Edomite. My thoughts on the Negroes that are, or the so-called Negroes that are asleep in these times, it's kind of sad, but it's actually a really good thing. It's, number one, it proves that, the prophecy of the Valley of the Dead Bones, how could these people wake up from their sleep? At least we know that these people are asleep and now they're waking up. Now is the time that they need to wake up. Now is the time. It's getting pretty close, and they are waking up. But no, the Negroes themselves, or what they like to call themselves, or what this whole world likes to call these people, are black people. But that kind of broadens the spectrum. That's like it's just as bad as calling a white person a white person. There's different types of white people, different nations of white people, just as there are different nations of black people. There's different nations of Asian people, or so-called black people, and black is a color. There's no such thing as color when you're naming nations. Nations comes from fathers, and it's really ignorant to call people black people. But if you do the research, the true nationality of the so-called black people is Israelite, or Hebrew Israelites. The true nationality of the so-called black people is Israelite, or Hebrew Israelites. The true nationality of the so-called black people is Israelite, or Hebrew Israelites. And they're a nation of people who descended from Jacob, who was later named Israel, who had 12 sons, who became the 12 tribes, who multiplied into the uncountable number of Israelites that are as the sands of the seas today. Can't count them, there's so many. Yes, they are Hebrew Israelites. And that's not a religion, that's not a cult, it's strictly a nationality, bloodline of people. And it's that simple. They're a bloodline, and you cannot convert into being an Israelite. You can't, change to be an Israelite. You are what your father was, what your forefathers are. I can't claim to be an Israelite because I know for a fact that I'm an Edomite. Israel was not my forefather. Esau was, based on the biblical descriptions. And the Africans of today, they're different from the Israelites. While yes, some Israelites still do dwell in Africa after running into Africa from Israel in 70 AD, that is true. Israelites are spread across the world, across the four corners of the earth. But the Africans the majority are Hamites. They aren't even of the seed of Shem, which is the forefather of Israel, or Jacob. And it's that's kind of the consequence of calling dark colored, or people of color, black people. You would never know the difference between an Israelite or a Hamite. There's a huge difference. that in these times must be revealed, because these are the end times, and these people need to wake up, because the Christ is coming for these people. And if they don't know who they are, I don't know how they can be caught up with them. You know, it's the start. You need to know who you are before you make any other progress. You know, it states in the Bible that the Most High's people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. You know, that knowledge is thinking that they're black, they're Africans, they come from Africa, the motherland. No, they don't even realize that they predate Africa. They're from Israel. They ran into Africa, and they don't even have anything to do with Africa. They have everything to do with Israel, though, and that is very important, because Israel was promised a very big promise by the Most High, and in order for them to receive that, they must at least acknowledge their nationality.
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits.
And it says, the righteous esteem them as counterfeits. We're telling them that they're fake, that they're not the Jews. Christ was not Cesar Borgia, that the Jews are black, that the real Jews are the poor righteous in the ghettos, that the real Jews were taken into captivity by the Romans, and that the people in Israel today are counterfeits, fakes, Khazarians claiming to be a people whom they are really against. The best place to hide is to assume the enemy's identity. No one would have ever suspected Esau and Jacob, so they became Jacob. So they're mad because we're calling them fakes. They are fakes. There's no such thing as Jewish people in the Bible. Either you're from Judah or you're not. Either you're from Levi or you're not. Either you're from Manasseh or you're not. Jewish, they kind of ish, but anything with an ish on it is not it. So they upset because we're just solidifying our position on this earth based on strictly on bloodline too. That we know that the Jews are the Jews of prophecy, and not through what you worship, and not how you worship. Worship don't determine bloodline. Okay. Read.
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits. He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness.
And we look at their ways as filthiness. And we do. We look at them, how can you make pork kosher? In Philadelphia, they got kosher pig feet. What type of mess is that? So one of your filthy priests went and prayed over some pork, and now it's clean? Okay, so no. How can you say that you are God's people, but you sell sin to the population? Pornography, evil, drugs. All the unclean animals the Most High said don't eat is in all your filthy supermarkets. So how can you claim to be God's people? Where are you upholding God's law if you are who you say you are? So they get upset because we say they're not the people. If you were the people, wouldn't you be executing God's law on this earth? Or would you be casting a spell on the earth through the old Druids' wood, Hollywood? So they sit back and say, how are these poor, and you know they call us all types of names in private. How these poor NIGGs can claim that we're not the Jews when my grandmother told me I'm from the tribe of Levi. Your grandmother lied to you. That's what happened. So when they see us standing in the boldness of our forefathers, they come together, and this is exactly what we're reading. This is the content of their meetings. So you don't have to be invited into a UN meeting to know what they're talking about. The Most High told us a long time ago through the Apocrypha. And that's why they don't have your Apocrypha in your churches right now. Because it gives us a window into those who are planning against us. So when something comes out and people say, well, how do you know? I'm like, listen, the Most High told us what they do. That's how we know. Any campaign they come out with is never what they say it is. Okay? They'll come out and say, oh, we got 4 people with Ebola in New York. How many people live in New York? What's the population of New York? 4 people, that's not a pandemic. Oh, I think we got 3 people with Ebola in Ohio. And guess what? We got more black children that die through vaccines every day. But there's a campaign through all of our institutions to say that we need to think about Ebola now. When there's more of our children dying and becoming brain fried through vaccines, where they can't even speak and cry out to their parents that these people are killing me, where the parents actually tell you, hold you down while these criminals shoot things in them, and they're too young to even speak to say what these diseases and all these things being shot in them are doing to them. Then your child sitting in the corner can't even speak, brain dead, because you cared about your child. And you thought that was the right thing to do through the government's peer pressure when they're looking to kill you all. Well, I don't even know if they're going to let this video go out there. I'll be very surprised if they let this video out there. So that we can tie it all in together to what this really is, or in layman's term, the plans of the wicked against us, the Roman Empire, what they discuss concerning us, how they really feel about us. Read.
We are esteemed of him as counterfeits.
We are esteemed of them as counterfeits.
He abstaineth from our ways.
And we do against what they do. Read.
As from filthiness. He pronounceth the end of the just to be blessed.
And we pronounce that at the end of this, the poor will stand as the righteous governors, kings and queens of this earth, that we will stand one day and be protected by our God, that heaven will come to this realm and protect us. And that they will be destroyed with their filthy God, whose name was once Lucifer. Satan will be bound, and all his angels that followed him, along with the politicians who call themselves Masons in this earth, who's looking to build Satan's kingdom in this realm. They will all be destroyed. They hear it all the time and can't stand it. Read.
And maketh his boast that God is his father.
And then we make a boast. They can't stand that we're boasting that we're the children of God and that God is our father. That we're not following the pagan gods they reverence and worship. They can't stand that. They'd rather stand in the Christian church on pagan Sunday and worship Zeus, who's another name for Satan, aka Satan. Read.
Verse 17. Let us see if his words be true.
Now here's their plan. Let us see if their words be true. Let's see if their God helped them against what we're about to do to them. Let's see if their word is true. Let's see if their God is the true God. Read.
And let us prove what shall happen in the end of them.
Let's see what's going to happen at the end of them. Read, to show you they're watching us. Read.
For if the just man be the son of God,
if they're really the children of Israel,
he will help him and will deliver him from the hand of his enemies.
If he's really their God, then he's going to deliver them from what I'm about to do to them. So they're claiming to be the children of Israel. Let us now bring more campaigns of death and destruction against them. And let's see if their God is going to help them. See, this is what they discuss in private. So that's why they come out with more and more campaigns against us, put military in certain places. Since we're claiming we're the children of God, once they begin to oppress us, they're going to ask us, Where's your God? Because they did the same thing to Christ. Slapped him and beat him and slapped him around. Beat him with cat nine tails. Hung him on wood. And then put a throne of crowns on him, putting a throne of crowns on him and beating him, saying, are you king of the Jews? Where's your God? So they're going to look to oppress us. And guess what? A lot of us will be oppressed and afflicted through all this. But we will not denounce our God. We will not denounce him through all this, whether it be the mark of the beast, because at the end of this, we're changed and we're coming back glory and power. We're coming back in glory with power at the end of this. They're going to try to break us. But we are to stand with our God, because they're going to say, huh, okay, you don't want to eat? Okay, the only thing we have here is pork. Okay, that's all we have here. What are you going to do? Where's your God? Read.
19. Let us examine him with despitefulness.
Read it again.
Let us examine him with despitefulness.
Let us examine him with despitefulness. Now, how are they able to examine us, brothers and sisters? Our school systems. The witches and warlocks and sorcerers are in our schools. It's usually your nurses. You notice a nurse, and I know growing up in schools, these nurses were people we never knew. Psychologists, these were people from other places we never knew. The school teachers, a lot of them were from our neighborhoods. But the psychologists and the nurses came from someplace else. They examined us. They kept our records. All of our schools and our SATs have went into a database. They've been examining us. See? Read.
Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture.
So they're not examining us because they like us. They're coming up with new ways to destroy us. And they're going to make it where the natural living, how we naturally are as a people, becomes unlawful. Okay? They're going to make laws based against what we do naturally to make us criminals. Read.
Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture, that we may know his meekness and prove his patience. Let us condemn him with a shameful death.
Let's break them and let's condemn them with shameful deaths. Read.
For by his own saying shall he be respected. Such things they did imagine and were deceived.
These things, the elite, the powers that be, did what?
Did imagine.
Did imagine amongst themselves.
And were deceived.
But they're deceived.
For their own wickedness have blinded them.
Their own wickedness have blinded them.
As for the mysteries of the Most High.
Now check it out. How have their own wickedness blinded them? By them setting up a system strictly to destroy us. They're destroying their own children. They're destroying their own earth. They're destroying their own people. They're poisoning their own waters. So by them doing all these things, it's leading to their own demise. Just because they're so hell-bent on killing us. But who's going to save them out of it? We have a God at the end of this with a promise. But they're so hell-bent, that's their deception. They have created a world of total immorality and destruction because they hate us so. Not realizing that there's no other place on the outside of this earth they can go. So they have deceived themselves into their own destruction. We have an out. Okay? And even for the Gentiles, the only out they have is to follow us. They have destroyed their whole earth and their own dwelling trying to destroy us. Thinking, okay, we have bottles of water that we contain that don't have aspartame in it. How long do you think that water going to last? If you poison the rest of the waters. Simple as they can be. That's why the Most High call them foolish. They're so hell-bent on living this glory life, which is a dream. And so hell-bent on the prophecies concerning our rise, that they'll destroy everything, even if it means their own families and their own children. They're psychopaths. And I know they're not going to like that. But that's under their diagnosis. Okay? If you want to know what a nihilist or psychopath is, according to how they resolve what it is, based on their psychological laws, I have easily diagnosed it under what they say a psycho is. And these are our leaders. Well, not our leaders. Your leaders. Read on.
As for the mysteries of God,
As for the mysteries contained in this Bible,
they knew them not.
they don't even know them.
Neither hoped they for the wages of righteousness, nor discerned a reward for blameless souls. For the Most High created man to be immortal, and made him to be in the image, or made him to be in an image of his own eternity.
Now check that out. If they was really, they were so busy studying the Bible just to know our ways, and looking and trying to find new ways to destroy us. They didn't even think to look into the Bible to find immortality. That man wasn't created with a lifespan. Man originally was created by the Most High to live forever. The mysteries were always there, but they're so pigeonholed on trying to destroy us. They only go to the Bible to find our patterns to work against us in war. They never thought to go to the Bible for its true purpose, to find immortality. And see, and that's why we have no fear of what they can do. We understand there's really no such thing as death, brothers and sisters. When the Most High created our spirit, it was from him all existing. And the Most High could not destroy himself. We are a part of him. We are eternal. So if they really had any sense when they were in the Bible, it should not have been to study us and our weaknesses. It should have been to find immortality and to know what the true purpose of life is, not just ruling over another people. With that, you can read the rest. And through the Spirit of the Most High, I hope you brothers and sisters understand the power that you have, that's in you, and utilize it for love amongst each other, so that we can all be in the same mind to protect and help each other in due time. So it's not about what the enemy is doing. We know what they're thinking. But how will we be and think and operate knowing what we know? That's the task. With that, I'm going to say shalom. Love you all. And I can answer one question because I answered questions prior to this. And we'll be on our way until we see you again. And I will be on the radio this Wednesday.
What about, I'm a Jewish person. You don't think it's
I'm Jewish. I'm the real Jew. I'm from a tribe called Judah. You're not Jewish.
I think I'm Jewish, man.
You're not Jewish.
I pray 3 times a day.
You're not Jewish.
I eat kosher.
You see these black people out here? We the real Jews. You feel me?
Not really, no.
Yes. This conversation is done.
So let's begin. In the early pictures that you would see depicted in worship places, churches, and things of this nature, as you can see right here, in this image right here, and others that I'll continue to put up, that Messiah was depicted as a black person, you know, an African American person. And this is totally different to what we see as Roman Catholicism was further introduced and spread abroad throughout the world. We always see a white Caucasian Messiah being depicted. And I want to reiterate throughout this that I'm not being racist. I love every single person in humanity. It's very important we know who the true Hebrews are. And anyway, as time progressed, though, these paintings and the depictions went from the black African American features to a more Caucasian white feature. And this wasn't done overnight. This was a slow sifting process as to what we have today. Now in every church house and on their walls we see a white Messiah. And this could not be further from the truth. Now I'll put links in the bottom of the video description where you can go see a lot of these abroad on the internet. And I encourage you to research Google because there's so many remaining artifacts of this from centuries before. As we move forward, there is, after Noah come off the ark, and the sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Ham is a guidepost that we can use to help us find the true Hebrews, because the sons of Ham, the true Hebrew Israelites, always blended with the sons of Ham. And I'll give you many examples of this. As we read in Genesis 10, it gives the genealogy, and so we can see the beginning of the division of people. But the Egyptians come from their father Ham. In Palestine, if you look at some of the people that are descendants from long ago, they're black. Although we have other people of ethnic background moved into Palestine today, the people that intermingled with the true Hebrews, the Palestinians, many of them are black. And that is from generations back. Not only this, but the scripture states that in Amos 9 and 7 that the Hebrews are like the Ethiopian to him. If we look in Ethiopia, I find that most people have no problem understanding that the people there are of black African nature. Now, the sons of Ham, though, as we find in the scripture, we can see that Joseph blended with the sons of Ham, because whenever his other brothers came to receive goods and merchandise to take back to help their family, they did not know that it was him. Now this could have not went down if he was of another ethnic background, whatever color that may be, to blend with the black African American Egyptian at that time. I'm sorry, they're not American at all, but the black African Egyptian. Okay, so Moses, and make sure to read the scripture as well, Moses blended with the sons of Ham, the Egyptians, because he passed as their own people. We can find this recorded in Scripture. In Acts chapter 21, we find Shaul, Paul, passed as a Egyptian, and was asked this because he spoke Greek. If a man spoke Greek and he was Caucasian color as me, the Roman soldier may have just thought, hey, he's a Greek. But he had to ask him because the ethnic color. Yahushua fled into Egypt. His mother and father took him into the land of Egypt whenever Herod sought his life. Therefore, these people were able to blend and look the same. This is so important to understand because not only is it found in Scripture, but even secular examples such as this right here, National Geographic, showed the black pharaohs of Egypt. See, before the Arab people came in and took over what is modern-day Egypt now as an ethnicity, the people that was there beforehand were of African black characteristic. This is so important to understand because when history is erased by the following generations, that is what is history. Unless you do your due diligence and go back and search these things out. Moving forward, in modern Egypt, we find that the Egyptian premier Nasser spoke to the Israeli people at that time whenever they were returning to their said nation, and it was supposed to be the true Israelites. He said, "You left black, you came back white, we cannot accept you." And you can see a quote put up here, right here, I'll put the quote up. Now that's not me, and once again I'm not trying to be racist, anti-Semitic, or whatever you would want to label it. This is other people's statements. This is historical fact evidence. Hitler. I cannot think of a more murderous, sadistic, evil human being than Hitler. Nevertheless, Hitler provides us some very interesting evidence that he knew as well who the true Hebrews was. In a film documentary that he showed to his generals that is documented in Time Life magazine, as you can check out for yourself. And also there's video links in the video description below to other evidences of this, where you can see the hard copy of the book being spoke of in the video. Now that doesn't mean that I endorse everything in those videos and other people's thoughts. I'm just showing you that this book does exist nevertheless. In Time Life magazine, it was labeled, I believe the book was labeled The Nazis, from every time that I've ever seen it. I've only seen the book a couple times in my life so far, and I want to get a copy of it because it's so powerful. Nevertheless, Hitler shows to his generals who the true Hebrews are and who the posers are. And he describes to his generals that the white-faced kind of, people always say that I kind of look Jewish. That's actually a fair statement, because my background is Germanic, Russian. I have, that is my ancestry. Well, we'll find out later in this video, as I described to you, that the Ashkenazi Jews are from that region in the world. I'm not a Jew. I'm not an Israelite. I'm a Gentile that has accepted Messiah into my heart, Yahushua, to keep his commands, do his Torah and his Father's commands, and trust in him so that I may have eternal salvation. Now, Hitler explained the white person that was posing to be an Israelite as the bastard. And please forgive me, I mean not to be profane. I am describing exactly what was shown in the film. It also showed an African man of nature and facial feature, hair texture, as the true Hebrew. And it broke this down and digressed very deep. It went extremely deep. It was profound to me how much emphasis he put on explaining to his generals who the true Hebrew were. It was shocking. I encourage you to look into that. If Hitler, a psychopathic murderer, that I totally acknowledge that genocide was taking place and that Hitler tried to kill many people, especially Auschwitz, is a terrible atrocity upon humanity. But nevertheless, these people are not the true biblical Hebrews. They suffered great murderous atrocities against their people, but they're not the true biblical Hebrews. Please understand this. Moving forward from this, though, the Ashkenazi, it's very important that you understand who Ashkenazis are. They're not the real Hebrew. Matter of fact, a lot of them look like me, which I just told you. I'm not a Hebrew or a Jewish person or Israelite. I am a Gentile. I cannot reiterate that enough. In the 11th century, these people began to really take on the characteristics, try to personify themselves as if they were the true Hebrew, which it cannot be further from the truth. They speak something that's more along the lines of Yiddish. Whenever I first began working in ministry, I wanted to learn to make sure I knew how to read, write, and understand and speak Hebrew, so that I done exactly what the Master commanded, Hebrew and Gentile, in his commands. As a person that speaks English, I found that it was very imperative very quickly that I get back to the foundation and find out exactly what the Scripture said. As I went to a foreign language academy, one of the first things that got brought up to me was that I spoke, kind of sounded Yiddish. I inquired as to what Yiddish was. I found out that it's kind of a Germanic language tone mixed with Hebrew. With my Germanic background and my own family's lineage, it made perfect sense to me, and I understood all of a sudden exactly what they were trying to say. In going to Hebrew school, this brought up an important point to me at that point, though, is why would that be the case? Because the Hebrew people should always have been the Hebrew people. Their tongue should not be something intermingled with other people. As we move forward in Genesis 10, verse 3, we find Ashkenaz. And that's actually, the people are actually explained in the Scripture, where they're from, who they are. So they're not Hebrews. And the Scripture itself attests to this. So these people are posers. At this point, whether a person wants to accept and acknowledge that or not, the written word is the written word. Neither you nor I can do anything to change that. Well, unless you're like the beast power in Rome and want to change times and laws, I guess you could probably attempt to change Scripture as well, but I'm not Babylon. I'm a servant of the true Most High, and I want to do exactly what His Word says. The true Hebrews will be regathered when Messiah returns. These people will be gathered out of all the nations abroad that they've been scattered amongst. The nation-state of Israel right now, many people refer to it as the terrorist nation-state of Israel. I refer to it as the poser state of Israel, because the people that are there, most of them do not even acknowledge Messiah. nor do they even keep the Jewish faith. They're actually nothing more than people in a land that's not their own. That's just a factual statement. Now, what I want to do now is I want to go to Deuteronomy 28. Because Deuteronomy 28, out of all the peoples and nations of the world, tongues, ethnics, and backgrounds, they define out one population of people that are more unique than any population of people up on the planet of Earth. They're the only people that meet these characteristics and therefore can be the only people that are the true Hebrews. So let us begin. And I will prove to you that it is the people that is defined as the African American that have been scattered abroad throughout the nation of the world because of the sins and transgression of breaking Master Yahweh's commands and their ancestors doing it. Leprosy is something that most people don't understand. If I got leprosy, you would never really know it. Why? Because it makes you white. Black people, it's very profound because you're black and then you become white. This is something that you can't hide, okay? Nevertheless, that's why the leprosy in the day and time of the ancient biblical Hebrews, it was so profound because it does nothing for me. For you, it's life-changing and devastating, nevertheless. As we move forward throughout the scripture in Deuteronomy 28, and I encourage you to read the entire chapter in full context and look at exactly what I'm saying. Slavery is nothing new to the African American people. You will find that if you're an African American, many of your ancestors were exactly that, slaves. It says in the scripture that they would be a yoke of iron put about your neck, and that you would be turned into a slave. Well, that happened in bondage in the land of Egypt. And not only that, but here we'll find shortly thereafter that the scripture says that you're going to be taken from Egypt in slave ships, and that's exactly what happened, and scattered all amongst the world. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Scripture says that you would take a wife and another would lie with it. How many women were raped during slavery and taken from their husbands and sold to someone else as a master and taken abroad? Alright? Thou built a house, but you won't dwell in it. How many built the nation of the United States of America today, but you have no part with it, you know? You would plant vineyards, but you wouldn't eat the fruit thereof, harvest it. There you go, you know, you worked and toiled in the fields, your ancestors worked and toiled in the fields, but you had no part of it. The sons and daughters taken away, you know, you'd long for them all the day long, your eyes would fail for longing after them, and they're not to return. The slavery, the children would be born, they'd be to a certain age, and they'd be sold, okay? You'd be oppressed and crushed, a nation of people that's oppressed and crushed. Not only that, but it just madness and blindness. You know, I mean not to be racist when I say this, but I've found some of the craziest stuff you find in the African American population. Just pull up your pants, quit looking ridiculous. There's so many things that is just that it's because of the sin of your ancestors that you do these things in what you do now. And I mean not to be racist, it's just the truth. Your carcass would be for the beasts of the field. You know, so many people that was slaves just murdered and cast out, and the animals, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air ate your flesh. You shall fear day and night. You know, the scripture said that, removed in all the kingdoms of the earth. If you look from the continent of Africa, where the Arabians called the best of my knowledge that I could find from this, and I'll try to get, this is the only thing that I'm still trying to get a solid factual statement from the Arabic people, but it said that the Yahudim were a people accursed of their Elohim, and when they were sold off as slaves, that's what they were said. That was what would be said, and that whenever slavery was taking place, that the African American people, so far referred to, but you are the true Yahudim or Israelites, were spread abroad to the United Kingdom, to America, to Australia, all abroad. Your people are spread all abroad. And will be regathered together again back into your land of Israel. You're spoiled and no man saves you. You know, I find out of all the peoples that are oppressed, especially in America, I find this interesting. That, and once again, please do not define this as racism. But especially at the point in time we're at right now, illegals immigrating into the United States, foreigners abroad, even for me as a white man, I found that when I became unemployed, it was very difficult on certain things. But I find for the most difficult people that have a hard time is probably the African American people. And I wondered for many years why that was, until I understood that you people were the true Hebrews under the curse of Deuteronomy 28. That makes perfect sense. The Scripture says that the stranger would be put above you and you would be put below. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've went into a McDonald's and other places abroad that it's the lowest of low jobs, and that's where you find many of the true Hebrews. And once again, I mean not to be racist. This is why you are under this ban, is because of Deuteronomy, the curse of Deuteronomy 28. And, you know, Deuteronomy 30, if you read that chapter, it's a call for return. And I encourage you to begin the restoration of the Creator's appointed times. Right there's a link to it. Keep His commandments. Believe on the Most High and accept His Son, because if you do so, one day you will have back what your ancestors lost. One day you'll have all these things restored unto you again. And, you know, it's just like Isaiah 56 and Isaiah chapter 58. I hold so tightly to those chapters myself in the Scripture because I'm a Gentile. I long for the new kingdom. I want to be gathered to be a part of it. But you are a very specific people. And for those of you who are listening, such as myself, like myself, that are Gentiles, it's very important that we understand who the true Hebrews are. Because those that are posers in the land of Israel right now, until the times of the Gentile be fulfilled, these people will not inherit the land of Israel. They're only here for a time being, for a short space. These people that are posers in the land will hold the land of Israel. They are not the true Hebrew, and they never will be. The life is in the blood. I know who I am because I done a DNA check, and it fulfilled everything that my ancestors, you know, my grandmother. People don't refer and listen to the Ancient of Days anymore. They don't listen to their elders. I listened to the Ancient of Days, and my elders and I resourced them as often as I could before they all passed away. And they told me who my people were, where my blood come from. And when I done that DNA check and they tested it, it traced it just down the line, right down the line to my people, my ancestors and those that were Ancient of Days that were still alive with me told me exactly who they'd be. It went right line up on line. But the only people in the world who know not who they are, except that they're African American, are the true biblical Hebrews. And I encourage you today that if you're under the sound of my voice to begin that journey. If these, right here, this statistics, this information that I've shared with you from Scripture and from history, if you are compelled that you're one of those people, I encourage you to begin searching the Scripture now, because the time of restoration is coming. The last thoughts I would share with you as an individual is that I have many friends of every faith, ethnic background, just about you could think of. I've told each and every one of the people that are my friends that are of African American nature, and people that I come in contact with that are strangers to me. They're not strangers when we leave, though. I always make a point to, you know, befriend everyone I can. But I have found that as I tell these people whom they are, that many of them acknowledge that that's exactly who they are. That brings me great joy, because time is drawing to the end, and the time for understanding biblical prophecy, understanding who the true biblical Hebrews are, understanding the commandments, the time frame for accepting Messiah, all these things are drawing very short to the end. And as a person that has prepared themselves for the sounding of the seven trumpets of Revelation, this is the most critical time in the history of humanity. There'll never be a time of turmoil like there is taking place now ever be again. It's so important we have every single characteristic of end-time prophecy in place, and one of those is knowing who the true biblical Hebrews are. I hope this has been enlightening to you. I hope it's opened your eyes to so many things that have been hidden. I promised I would do this video, and I hope for those who have requested it that it's a blessing to you. So until we see you again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, I hope you have a most blessed day.
I can give you is Deuteronomy 28. You can clearly read how they fell and they would be cursed in the future to come over on cargo slave ships, and they did. That was the American slave trade. Sorry, the American continental Atlantic slave trade, whatever it's officially called. That was their curse, and that was brought about by the Most High because they fell as a nation. They sinned, but yeah, it's really clear. Like, no other people on the earth ever went into slavery by cargo slave ships, except these so-called, African Americans, which are clearly Israelites because of this very prophecy, this very active thing happening. Revelations 1 and 14, it clear 14 through 17, I'm sure, clearly states that Christ, who himself was an Israelite, his feet were as a burnt brass, a burnt fiery brass, which you could simply Google search bronze, brass, burnt. It will look exactly like a black person's skin tone, like spot on exactly. It's undeniable. In Revelations 2 and 9, the people in Israel today who got there, in 1948, they're not Israelites. They come from Khazaria, the Khazarian Empire. They're not even Jews. They're not even close to Jews. They're my people. We're Edomites. We're not even close to Israel. Well, I guess we're the twins, but still can't. I can't call myself Israel because I'm the twin. Doesn't work like that. And yeah, Revelations 2 and 9 states, the people over there, and you could put together, are the synagogue of Satan. They're, the Most High knows the tribulations that the true Israelites are going through in these times. The slave ships, all the way to Planned Parenthood, these vaccines, the rich oppressing these people who just so happen to be the poor of the earth. It's discrimination, lynching, like so many terrible things that the other nations have conspired against these chosen people of the Most High. The people in Israel are the opposite of the Israelites. They only want to destroy them. They're only there for political reasons. They're not even there to follow the Most High by any means. It's all just a huge reverse deception that everyone has fallen for, because our forefathers, our grandparents didn't know this really. So how could they possibly teach us and prevent us from this knowledge? But now is the time. People know now. Now is the time to wake up from your sleep, Israel. Yeshua is coming. Christ is coming for you and for all those in his name. And that's very important that you know who you are. Joseph's brothers, just as an example, Joseph, his brothers came to Egypt looking for food, and Joseph was second in command of Egypt. All praises to the Most High for that blessing. But his brothers didn't even recognize him, because common sense would tell you their time wasn't very far from Noah, and people weren't mixing all that much at that time, and people looked pretty similar, and especially in skin color, especially since before Esau, there had been no so-called white people in the earth at that time. So it's easy to perceive that his brothers wouldn't even recognize him, because, obviously they hadn't seen him for a while, but he looked physically like pretty much everybody else. Everybody looked, they all had dark skin, and even Moses, the Pharaoh had ordered all the firstborn Israelites to be thrown into the Nile for the gators to eat up, and he didn't even realize that Moses was a Hebrew the entire time he raised him from birth, or his wife or handmaiden. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I mean, it's clear that even Paul was mistaken to be an Egyptian, who are definitely historically proven by our world standards to be people of color, like so-called black people. The Egyptians, and Paul, he was mistaken to be an Egyptian because he was a person of color. You know, and every single time you look into the fact that the Israelites were people of color, it will always be true. You'll never ever see in the Bible any proof that they are people, or that they match any description of the people in Israel today. For example, people in Israel today do not by any means match the biblical description of who the true Israelites are. And with that, I'm going to say shalom. I hope y'all got some information and knowledge and understanding from this, because now is the time for these people to wake up, and it's time to stop being ignorant to this fact, because Christ is coming whether you acknowledge it or not. It'd be better that you acknowledge it and accept Christ rather than not acknowledge it and just the worst happen. God forbid. You know, and I pray for that all Israelites stumble across this message, not this particular message, but the message of who they are. It is very important that Israelites that do wake up realize that that's the only way that the Gentile nations will ever know the truth. It is very important that Israelites that do wake up realize that that's the only way that the Gentile nations will ever know the truth is if they bring it forth, because for 99.9% of the people in the earth of Gentiles that are bringing forth words out of the Bible, they're lacing it with deception. And the Israelites, they got the Spirit on them, linking in with the Most High, to where they don't do that. As long as they're doing it right, and it's through them that the gospel should be, spread throughout the earth, and, through them, salvation will be shown. They're the ones that are supposed to show us who Yeshua is, who the Christ is, and that Yeshua is the way, the truth, and the light. And no man goes to the Father but through him. But first you even have to have that information, and you must get that information, It's important for you Israelites to get that information out, because you are the light to the Gentiles. And I just want to read a section out of John, St. John, chapter 4, verse 22. It says, "Ye worship ye know not what we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews." And Christ is talking about here that, he's talking to a woman, but she didn't, or he was just explaining that it is through the Jews that the salvation is given. It's not through any of the other nations. That's very clear. The Most High gave the promise to the Israelites, children of Israel. And it's just, you gotta wake up and spread this light throughout the world. It's time for people to start coming back to the Father. Great awakening has begun, and it is in progress. The birthing pains are happening, and Most High is ready to deliver his people back into their land and into the kingdom, and it's gonna be great. So I pray to the Most High that all Israelites that are called by him take heed to that calling, and spread the light to all the Gentiles. I appreciate the one that showed me the light, and every other Gentile would appreciate it too. And all praise to the Father for that. And with that, I'm going to say shalom, and I hope you take heed to these words.